Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be working from Dory Greenspan's Around My French Table. I've been enjoying the book. Um, that's my oven. It's heated now. And I like these recipes because they tend to be relatively simple, unlike the other French cookbook I got more recently. But today we're going to be making Quatre-Quarts, which literally translates into 4/4, but this is the French version of a pound cake because basically it is 4 ingredients, all equal, not volume, equal weights, because that's how they generally would do it. She said before, originally it was weigh your eggs, then use the same amount of butter, flour, and sugar by weight as your eggs. We're not doing that today. We're following the recipe, which is not that, but it should be relatively close, especially considering she said she had to redo the recipe a little bit based on like American butter, which is less fat and all that. So we're following the recipe. I have a lot of bowls because this is a relatively small amount of different ingredients, but you have to mix a lot of things separately before they all come together. So I have measured the flour. This is a relatively small cake. We're going to be using an 8-inch springform pan. You can use a regular 8-inch cake pan if you prefer, but it's just easier to take it out of the springform pan. That is an option in the recipe. I've buttered it. She says also to dust the inside with flour. I didn't do that, but I did put baking parchment on the bottom layer of the pan. That should be okay. I think we'll be fine with that. So I've measured my flour. I need to add a couple other ingredients. So my flour is in this bowl already, and I need to add some baking powder. Mine has been kind of clumpy. I don't know if it's a different color container than I had before. And I remember the store had both, and I don't know if it's different in some way because it doesn't usually get clumpy on me, but it's a little clumpy right now. And I also need to add a pinch of salt. All of my ingredients are back there because of all of these bowls taking up a ton of room. So I'm going to whisk this together just to get out the lumps, mix it together. And those are sort of our dry ingredients. I'm going to move these back here. And now I'm going to use this deeper bowl to whisk egg whites. These have been separated. We're going to use the yolks as well. So these were separated, and we're going to whisk these. I'm going to use this hand mixer just because I didn't want to get out my big, I've got a new stand mixer and I just didn't want to get it out. I used it recently and I just don't want to deal with it right now. And this should work fine. I'm going to use my hand mixer to whisk these until they are glossy but hold firm peaks. So we'll see how long that takes. It'll be a bit. I'm not doing this by hand. Let's see where we are. Those are pretty firm peaks. So I think we're good and still glossy. So I'm going to set these aside. That's what they look like. I think that's fine. And in this bowl, I'm going to use this as well, just because I don't feel like whisking it all by hand. Make sure I don't have any bits of anything in that bowl. And in here, we put the egg yolks. I separated them when they were still cold and then let them warm up a bit on the counter. And we're going to put in the sugar that I've already measured. This is just regular granulated sugar. And we're going to beat these together until they are thick and pale. She says using a whisk. I'm using this. It should be fine. All right. They're definitely thick and pale. I don't feel like there was quite enough yolk to sugar, so maybe I overmeasured the sugar. We'll see. But, and it's still a little bit gritty. I think that'll be okay because now we're going to pour in, I've got some vanilla. You can also use cognac or dark rum. The dark rum was great, but I'm going to use the vanilla. And she says 1 to 2. I think I'm going to use 2 just because I like it. I'm using some vanilla that I made using bourbon. It's been sitting there for like a year with vanilla beans in it. So we're going to try this. I don't think I've tried the bourbon one before. I'm just going to mix this together real quick. Okay. And now I'm going to add the melted butter. This is unsalted butter, melted and then cooled, so it's not hot, so I don't have to worry about it scrambling my egg yolks in here, so I don't have to be too delicate about mixing these things together. All right. She said to whisk that gently until you have a satiny butter. I mean, that's kind of what it seems good to me, and I think we're done with these now. So these are going to go in the sink. And now I'm actually going to use the whisk to gently, yeah, that looks good. We're going to gently whisk in our flour mixture. And I'm going to do it all at once because she doesn't say not to. So I'm just going to get this mixed in pretty well. There we go. Now I have to get this all out of my whisk, but that's all right. I have a spatula that I'm going to be using again. So that's 2 of our mixtures mixed together. And now we have to add the third. So we're going to take about a quarter of the egg whites. So I'm just going to guesstimate what a quarter is. Looks good. And we're going to mix this in, and we don't have to be gentle about this, but we don't have to get it 100% mixed in, but we're just trying to lighten up this mixture a bit. There we go. And now we're going to lightly fold in the rest of the egg whites. So this will provide a little bit of lightening, but we do have a leavening ingredient in here. We have that baking powder in here. So it's not all of the leavening. But, so now that is a very thick mixture, which pound cake is generally a pretty thick mixture, and we don't usually whisk the whites. So it's usually just, the whole egg. So it's kind of hard to get this mixed in at this point, but It is lightening it up a bit. Trying to be gentle, but also get it mixed in pretty well. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Might be a little much, might not be quite enough, but that should be good. Now I have my prepared pan on a baking sheet, especially since I'm using a springform pan. Anything that comes out, I don't want it to leak all over my oven. And so I'm going to put this in my pan. I'm going to get my offset spatula and sort of spread this around. To be clear, this is not in the instructions, but we are going to now sprinkle the top with something, and I kind of want it to be, you know, along the whole bit. All right. That is good enough. At least it's almost the whole pan. And I'm going to sprinkle this with a little bit of supposedly lump-free, I just found a little lump, light brown sugar. I expect that to give it a nice little crunchy top, but we'll see. Bit of a lump. But that is it. Kind of a lot of steps for a pound cake, but we'll see. Hopefully this rises. Seems like a very small amount, but that's okay. I'm going to put this into my 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes till it's golden and starting to pull away from the sides of the pan. So fingers crossed. I'll let you know how long that takes in just a second. All right, this is my cake after 30 minutes. So I baked it for 20, was still really pale, and then put it in for 3. No, put it in for 5 for the full 25, as in the recipe. Checked it. It was still really wet in the middle. Let's check it now. I'd put it in for another 3 and then another 2. Yeah, now it's not wet in the middle, so I think we're good. So I'm going to let this cool for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to take the outside off. You can definitely see where it's kind of pulling away from the outside of the pan, so it should be relatively easy to get off. And then we're going to let it cool for the rest of the way on the base of the springform pan. And we will show you what it looks like and let you know what we think in just a second. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make Quatre-Quarts, or 4/4, from Dory Greenspan's book, Around My French Table. This is basically a French pound cake. It was a delicious cake. I enjoyed the flavor of it. I probably won't make it like this again. For me, if I can get a good cake without having to whip the egg whites separately from the eggs, from the egg yolks in sort of the rest of it, and lightening it up with the egg whites, it's a little bit too much for me. I don't like whipping egg whites, and if I don't have to. And I have a really good actually, pound cake recipe that makes a much larger pound cake and freezes beautifully that we like to keep on hand. So I'll probably be making one of those soon, being that it is almost strawberry season and we love strawberries on top of pound cake with some whipped cream in the spring. So I like to keep it available. We'll see if I manage to record that or not, but yeah, I like it. If you love it and if you think that there's something great about this recipe that is better than the sort of American version of pound cake, let me know in the comments down below. I probably won't make this one again. Definitely will be making the apple cake from this book again, which did not require whipping egg whites. But I still like the recipe. Everybody liked to eat it. It was a very good cake. Just a little more effort than I normally want to put in for a cake like this. Anyway, if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.